Welcome to the Kickstart Your Edge Play to Win Leadership Podcast,
where we've flipped the script with our groundbreaking modus operandi to bring you real, relevant, and relatable tactics and techniques to master your own play to win mindset.
Talk about a superpower. It's time to iron your cape.
What we know for sure is what got you here won't get you there.
You can't see the spinach in your own teeth.
And finally, hang on, because this one is really deep. Once you realize that you are the traffic, everything makes complete and unadulterated sense.
Welcome to the Edge, where playing not to lose is not an option. So the other day, Kara and I were on a call with two other fantastic, fabulous women, and we were having an amazing discussion about imposter syndrome. So we wanted to bring this topic to the airwaves to be able to share our thoughts, our insights, our questions, and all that great stuff around imposter syndrome. And it started, well, Kara, why don't you bring everyone up to speed?
So it started really with somebody talking about how much they had it and about how it stops them and how it gets in their way and, just things along that line, basically what an obstacle really is. And of course, Jen and I, being who we are, had to really kind of challenge it, right? We had to challenge the thinking of the person that was saying it, not just because that's just what we do, but because my thought on the whole thing was that, it's just a label. And it's just self-doubt. And there's all this attention to this imposter syndrome thing that I feel like what it does is it gives people an excuse to not do anything or to try to fix something. And I had read a quote, and I don't remember the exact quote now, but it was something along the lines of that imposter syndrome is like a cultural construct designed to confine us into a box. And my thought on that then became don't fix yourself. Get rid of the freaking box that you're putting yourself in. And then how do you really truly embrace your potential, your full potential, and who you really are? Because all you need to do is remove the label.
Yeah, it's a horrible label, imposter syndrome. It sounds like an illness. It sounds like a diagnosis. It sounds like something you can't get rid of. It sounds like it's something that you've been subjected to. And it really does a disservice the moment that somebody identifies and uses that label, because it's saying that it's almost outside of you and you have no control over it. Imposter syndrome to me is just somebody with a fixed mindset, right? So what I mean by that is there's oftentimes that we are doing things that are new in life. They require a new skill, a new way of thinking. We haven't done it before. And the moment we say, I don't know what I'm doing, people are going to figure it out, I have imposter syndrome, it means I'm stuck, versus I haven't done that yet, or I'm learning ways to accomplish A, B, and C, or being to acknowledge if you're in a beginner mindset and a beginner period with things, that's fine to acknowledge. It's an interesting way how sometimes we have these immediate expectations. We should be an expert in everything. And if we're not, then we're an imposter. When the reality is sometimes we're just learning.
That's it, right? It's spot on. You're not supposed to be great at everything right away. And it is about learning. And it's funny, Jen, as you were talking, I'm thinking about when you said it about it being a diagnosis, I'm like, I wonder if it's on WebMD, right? So I just put WebMD in and it says, what's imposter syndrome? And it says imposter syndrome is when you doubt your own skills and successes and you feel you're not as talented or as worthy as others believe. And you're scared that one day people will realize that. And it says it's not a mental health diagnosis, but it can cause harm in different areas of your life. And I think that that's the part of this that the part of this that makes me think about, all right, yes, it is about self-doubt, it is about fear, but the part of it that makes me like that is just like, oh, wait, is that you're scared that one day people are going to find out, right? People are going to realize that you don't know what you're doing. And I think that that's where the whole imposter thing actually comes in as well, because then other people, oh my gosh, they're going to find out. I have no idea. But you're not supposed to have an idea, especially if you're in the beginning of doing something.
It's interesting with the imposter syndrome. That's really a playing not to lose identity. If I can cover it up, if I cover my tracks, if I have enough worry, concern, anxiety, I'll force myself in and hopefully nobody will see who I really am, which is playing not to lose. Playing to win and being in the same position where you're learning new things, playing to win is about recognizing what resources you have, who can help you, how to be able to say, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm looking forward to being an expert in this. How do I get there? Being able to acknowledge that it's a journey and a path and allowing other people to help support is really a playing to win so that you can become the subject matter expert you might be looking to actually be. It's very interesting because I feel like Karen said, it's a cultural construct that puts people in a box. And I think people just jump on that term without realizing the harm they might be inflicting on themselves. And what I mean by harm is if I said every day I have imposter syndrome, I'm going to be less confident. I'm going to be less having faith in my own abilities, and I'm going to feel more trapped. And to me, that does feel harmful.
Yeah, absolutely. And one part about this, Jen, I just want to just back up a tiny bit, is about there's this kind of stigma, and people are always like, oh, this is about women, this is about women. And there's actually studies that have been done that it affects men and women equally. So I know that a lot of times people will say that, oh, okay, this is a big, women kind of thing. And truthfully, 50 years ago, when this term was first coined, it was about, interestingly enough, high achieving women, which is kind of interesting too. And again, like that, first of all, that it's 50 years ago, it seems kind of crazy, but it doesn't matter if it's men, doesn't matter if it's women. It's just really truly about what are those things that are in your way that are having you say, okay, great, this is imposter syndrome. But Jen, just throwing this out there right now, is it an excuse? Right? So is it an excuse to keep you safe? Is it an excuse to say, well, hey, I just have imposter syndrome, so I'm not going to put myself out there? I don't know. I know that like there's definitely different times in my life where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And that part of me is like, somebody's going to figure it out and help me, or I'm going to figure it out. But it's just because it's like we said earlier, it's just new. It's not that like, oh my gosh, I feel like a total fraud.
Yeah, I think though, you're right. If you live into the label and you say, I have imposter syndrome, what's wrong with me? How do I get past my imposter syndrome? How do I get coaching to help me through it? How do I let go of my imposter syndrome? When will I not feel like an imposter? All that energy is about trying to fix a label that you've attached to yourself. Versus if you took the same amount of energy and said, how do I learn more? Where do I begin? Who do I reach out to? How can I develop a deep expertise? What's my game plan from getting from A to Z? How do I actually become amazingly confident in this area that we're talking about? So one is about fixing something. The other is expanding, learning, and growing. So if we're stuck in the label, I do think it's an excuse because sometimes it's a lot easier to talk about these things versus going through the uncomfortableness of actually learning something new. I think you nailed it, Kara.
Because right now, Jen, what? This is not a syndrome that I suffer from.
I love it. All right, there's our thoughts for the day. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Kickstart Your Edge Play to Win Leadership Podcast.
Craving more? Of course you are.
Check out our website at kickstartyouredge.com,
where we fire you up, fan the flames of your competitive edge culture, and ignite your tenacious pursuit of an all-out play-to-win mindset.